Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil Ekolona, and this is Nashville. Now that the fall weather has arrived, mostly, it is the perfect time to get out there and take a hike, immersing yourself in nature and taking time to be with your thoughts. It's a good thing. You can take a light walk through the woods or take more challenging trails. There might even be a waterfall at the end if you do. Whatever you decide, Middle Tennessee offers some great hiking. So we're bringing you a rebroadcast of our episode from last October. We'll talk with some expert hikers about where you can go, how to be safe, and what to bring with you. I can feel the serenity from here. And later on, we'll meet a local chef who had big success on national television. But first, you just know we had to get out of the studio for a bit. Our producer, Rose Gilbert, and intern Tori Hoover spent some time enjoying the beautiful fall weather at the Randor Lake State Park and met a few friends along the way.
That sound, you know fall is here now when you hear those leaves crunch. Do you have a moment to talk?
Sure.
What's your name?
Saba.
Saba, nice to meet you.
Hello, what's your name? And this is Mishka.
What kind of dog is Mishka?
She's a husky, probably mix.
And what brings you out here today?
We're just here to spend some family time together, walk around.
All right, so we're hiking through the woods, and now we're crossing over a bridge that goes right over the dam that has created Radnor Lake. How sturdy do you think this is?
Pretty.
We're gonna check it by jumping on it. Oh, what's this plaque? Netherton Overlook, dedicated August 26, 1999. So I was like 6 months.
Oh.
For the protection of Radnor Lake, Nashville's Walden. A lake is the landscape's most beautiful and expressive feature. It is the earth's eye, looking into which the beholder measures the depth of his own nature. Henry David Thoreau.
There you go. You want to do this one?
Bye, James.
Bye.
Might as well.
What's your name?
Madeline.
Madeline, nice to meet you. What you working on?
I am painting this beautiful lake scene right in front of me.
So tell me a little bit. What do you see when you're looking at this lake and you're painting it?
Well, I think the thing that I notice the most is like the glistening water paired with all of the colors of the trees. I don't know. I think it's such a beautiful spot, and we were just walking over here, and we were trying to find a place just like this, and we happened to find it.
Hi, I'm Kayla. I just needed to get outside. The pandemic has been really hard for a lot of people, keeping us indoors. It's almost like you forget that every morning we wake up and we take a deep breath, and then you start your day. And you kind of forget when you're locked inside that nature breathes too. It really does. The sea of leaves, because the way they shift is like waves, and they kind of create this misting sound when they are, floating in the wind. And nature is just, it's a lot like us, and it's a good way to get out and ground yourself again.
She's right. Grounding yourself is so important. My next guests help people find the perfect places to hike and explore. John Michael Cassidy is the director of the Shelby Bottoms Nature Center, and Sophia Wang is a former WillSkills Outdoors Experience instructor. John, Michael, Sophia, welcome to This Is Nashville. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Now, people may think that because Nashville is a city, there's not a lot of opportunity for hiking here. John Michael, what do you say to that?
We have a number of protected spaces, including Radnor, as you mentioned, a number of paved paths throughout the city, blueways, greenways, and a good amount of park space within the county as well.
Now, you're the director of Shelby Bottoms right here in East Nashville. What are some of the features of your location?
Sure. We're riverine habitat, so predominantly floodplain within Shelby Bottoms, Shelby Park, the historic side, what we would call the ball side. We have a large railroad trestle that splits us. Shelby Bottoms is quite flat. It has over 6 miles of paved paths and over 5 miles of natural paths. A great time to explore the natural paths right now because it's quite dry. Come 2 months, it could be quite wet and the beavers could be quite active and trying to dam up what they do.
Beavers?
Correct, yeah. So we were hiking on the Ecology Trail yesterday, which is within the Nature Center's 1 mile loop, so quite close. The water levels are really low. The dam's exposed. Their lodge is very visible, and all their network is quite visible. Including, they were quite active. They were chewing up some elm and sweet gums, which people have been asking, have they sought refuge since there's low water? They're still there, and they're connected to the river, and they'll be back.
So what does Shelby Bottoms have to offer that sets it apart from other local parks?
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about Shelby Park and Shelby Bottoms and the rest of some of the natural areas and nature centers. Shelby Bottoms is quite close to the city. It's 3 miles from downtown Nashville, so we're quite close. I know you guys want to talk about potentially public transit in regards to different natural areas and nature centers. But we're fairly close. We're 3 miles upstream from downtown Nashville. We're on the Music City Bikeway, so you can bike there as well. But it offers a space and a place for wildlife, people, and a natural refuge.
Now, Sophia, you're an avid hiker, and you worked as a hiking instructor.
Yeah, that's right.
What did you enjoy most about hiking? What do you enjoy most about it?
That's a big question, and one that I've thought about a lot because I spent a lot of my time doing it. I think the best thing about hiking is that it can really remind you how simple life can be. It's an opportunity for you to get away from all the hustle and bustle of the city. You know, as when I was a student, there's deadlines and things going on and all this mess in your head. But when you go out there, you realize the world can be so quiet and you can find peace within yourself and you just see these beautiful things surrounded by life. You know, it's the best getaway that you can find.
I understand you grew up in New Zealand, right?
Yes, I did.
Tell me about hiking culture there.
Well, I think a lot of people know New Zealand as kind of like a pretty awesome destination to go, especially for everyone who loves outdoors, and I would endorse it so strongly. I would say that the hiking culture there is a lot more integral in the sense that, you know, if you go through high school, there are so many opportunities and ingrained things for you to go out and explore. And there are day hike trails everywhere. You know, you're so close to the mountains, so close to the beaches. It's just a beautiful landscape.
My nephew lives there, and he talks about it all the time.
Yeah, it's incredible. I've talked to a lot of people who've been there, and they can't say good enough things about it.
Okay, so maybe Nashville can't quite live up to that. But what are some of your favorite spots here?
Yeah, no, I was very, very pleasantly surprised by Nashville when I came here, and there's actually a ton of outdoor things to do. Some of my favorite things, if you're thinking more locally, like in Nashville, I really love going to Percy Warner in particular. I've been to Radnor Lake and the Narrows of the Harpeth as well, and those are all great areas. But I love Percy Warner. You know, there's a big trail running scene there. People go there on weekends. They bring their dogs. It's an awesome way to spend your weekend and get a breath of fresh air.
What's the special thing about Percy Warner that you really love that you just can't? You have to do all the time.
I think I've just been there so often that it feels familiar, and you know, it's a good amount of challenge and leisurely walk. You know, there are uphills, downhills. There's a little bit of everything that you need, and the nature there is beautiful no matter what time of year. It's comfortable. The trail is well worn, but not so much that it feels like you're in an urbanized area or anything like that.
Now, John Michael, what about you? What are some of your favorite places to go in town?
Sure. Sophia and I were both talking about Warner as well. Beeman is quite nice. It's on the Western Highland Rim, so geographically speaking, Nashville sits kind of in a bowl or a basin, and the Highland Rim is just north and west in Davidson County. Beeman has a new backcountry portion of trails. It has a 12-mile loop. And it also has some trails that are a bit closer to the nature center. Great mature forested area. It's quite nice when it's hot to get out of the sun. And then there's other places like Bell's Bend that are great for birding. We were talking before about hiking or walking as a means to other enjoyment, whether it's bird watching or enjoyment. I'm trying to find a champion tree or something, or a type of vista or view. So hiking is a simple method to do that.
Where do you recommend I go if I want to get out of Nashville, out of the city limits, deeper into Davidson County or maybe some of the neighboring counties?
Sure. Beeman, if you're within Davidson County, is by far probably the most wilderness setting. There's a loop trail that's 12 miles, and there's two 6-mile segments within that, and it's quite protected. A large percentage is designated state natural area as well. But within the region, I'm sure some of the other speakers will speak on Mammoth Cave, South Cumberland. The Smokies aren't too far, but within Davidson County, I would definitely recommend Beeman Park.
If you're just tuning in, this is Nashville, and I'm your host, Khalil Ekalona. We're talking this hour about hiking in Middle Tennessee. My guests are John Michael Cassidy and Sophia Wang. So, John Michael, what makes our area really unique for hiking?
Good. We were talking, Sophia and I, she is a geology background, and I have a background in geology, environmental education. We talked a little bit about Central Basin and the Highland Rim. Tennessee has an abundance of limestone, the most of any state, the highest number of caves. Depending on where you're at within our region, there's some distinct ecoregions and habitats. We have a lot of water in Davidson County, Cumberland River, Mill Creek, Whites Creek, Harpeth. So a pretty large watershed, and 2 lakes with that too. So we have a lot of blueways and greenways, an abundance of wildlife with that, and some specific areas that are quite unique, like the Hill Forest at Warner, Radnor Lake State Natural Area. Particularly in the eastern portions, there's a number of cedar glades that have endemic species that are found, sometimes not outside of that cedar glade or that specific area or county.
Now, Sophia, you recently graduated from Vanderbilt with a degree in geology, as John Michael said. What did you learn about our natural environment here that makes it special?
Yeah, well, Nashville's actually a really cool area. So Tennessee is mostly sedimentary rock, if people are familiar with that. And what's really interesting is that, like, thousands and thousands of years ago, Tennessee was actually all completely submerged underwater. And then as things changed, it rose up, civilization came. But when you walk around here, if you go to places like Fort Negley, you can go look at the rocks there, and it's a lot of limestone, and you can actually find these like little fossils and shells there if you just go and dig around. And it's awesome seeing like the past of it. And again, we're talking about waterfalls and stuff, limestone is a very soluble rock. And so we get these awesome waterfalls, and there's some sections of the geology that are less soluble, and they create these big cliffs, and that's why you have so many awesome, there are tons of state parks with waterfalls, and they're all around, and it really makes for beautiful landscapes. What are some of those state parks with the waterfalls? Just in case I want to go on a hike and be, watch some breathtaking beauty. Sure. Well, like one that I go to really often is Foster Falls, kind of by Chattanooga. If people can make it out there, it's really awesome. It's got awesome falls to go swimming in. There's a lot of climbing there. There's a lot of hiking there. Close, there's like Fall Creek Falls, Cummings Falls, all of those. Well, there's a ton of things around if you just have a look. What about like someone who's either born and raised in Nashville or been here for a long time, and they haven't really taken much time to get out to hike? How does hiking in a place really change your understanding of it? Right. I think what's really nice is that Nashville is quite a big city, and there's a lot of things going on here. But the opportunity to be able to kind of explore the earth and the nature around you, it can remind you that you're like kind of a part of everything here. The earth is all one. And that you can go out and see kind of the beauty of your own state and the beauty of where you grew up, and develop a lot of pride around that as well, and see what everything has to offer outside these big buildings and skyscrapers that we're seeing a lot recently. Yeah, to release yourself from the city hustle. Exactly. Now, you mentioned beavers already, John Michael. What other wildlife can we see when we're hiking in Middle Tennessee? Sure, we talked about birds. Bird watching is quite popular. Also one of the easiest things to see for people that aren't into nature or don't experience nature much. One of the easiest animals to see is often a bird. There's certain places that are quite well known for amphibians and reptiles at Beeman. Speaking of beavers, there's a lot of beavers in bottomland areas or near rivers. You can often see them at Shelby near dusk or at night because they're mostly nocturnal. They have been spotted at other times.
The bird watching is really good. I know you guys talked about Radnor as well, quite accessible. They had a pair of bald eagles that nested along some of their waterways. We have an osprey nest just behind our nature center along the Cumberland.
One of my favorite birds of prey, by the way, the
Me too.
osprey.
Okay, if we're talking choice, osprey over bald eagles.
Yep.
They're a little more active. The comparison would be the lion to the cheetah.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm a cheetah person, but I mess with lions as well. So tell me, have you had any memorable encounters while you were out there in the woods?
A beaver slap in the middle of the night or on a river that you're a little late to get to your takeout is always a startling experience. And walking up on beavers, being at Shelby, we're often in the park. We lead, guided hikes. That would be one instance. Kind of playing off Sophia, like having a feel for the outside space, taking your time, taking it in. Seeing a bird that you've never seen or just something up close, a special hummingbird or just the daily American red cardinal, northern cardinal.
You said the beaver slap. The beaver slapping the water is a loud noise?
Correct. So beavers use that as a defense mechanism.
Okay.
So they swim, we'll say, on the top of the water, and when they sense danger, they'll slap their tail, splash, make a sound,
Gotcha.
and dive.
Okay.
So often you'll hear the slap and not see them because it's quite dark.
Wow.
So that would be one experience.
That's fun. Sophia, how about you? What is the most memorable moment in the trail?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if this necessarily counts as the trail, but I was going along the Hiawassee River. I was actually in a canoe, but there's an area where you can also hike around there.
We've paddled with Vandy down there as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. We're going whitewater canoeing down there. And there was this bit where it was much calmer, and we were kind of sitting on a little bank having lunch and stuff. And then you could actually see, I think I saw like 3 otters just playing around in there together.
River otters, yeah.
River otters, yeah. Swimming around, playing around there. And that was, I really didn't expect it to be here. I guess I didn't know the ecology as well as I thought I did. And it surprised me. It was just awesome seeing them in the wild and interacting how they normally do.
They're incredible. Super athletics, kind of slimy and very animated.
Yeah, very cute.
Did you see one like floating on its back eating some fish?
Oh, I don't know about eating fish, but yeah, they're just hanging out together, swimming around, peeking around, seeing what you're doing.
Diving up and down,
Yeah,
exactly.
maybe smell your boat a little bit and have fun.
That sounds like the life. We got a tweet from This Is Nashville from Stacey Irvin. Her quote is, I use a motorized wheelchair. My favorite trail is to Lake Loop at Radnor Lake State Park. It's a beautiful escape from the city, right in the middle of the city. I love using the park's free power chair because it's much more comfortable than my own. Now, John Michael, let me ask you, how can we make hiking more accessible for more people?
So there are some ADA accessible portions within Metro Park. I didn't know about the loaner program. That sounds awesome. There's a accessible boardwalk at Beeman that goes along the ridgeline, and there's crushed gravel. Really incredible section at the end next to a mature tree. So I guess from that perspective, maybe more accessible trails with certain grades and crushed gravel that certain types of chairs could access.
Now, you mentioned it earlier. I understand that you have this idea of potentially getting Metro to provide bus stops to our nature centers. Is that right?
Sure. Yeah, that was one point that was brought up before the show, and they were kind of asking about public transit options to certain nature centers or natural areas. There are a few bus routes that go close to nature centers or in Warner Park, Shelby Bottoms. Beeman and Bells are quite more rural. With Shelby, there's one within a mile, and then from Warner, there's within 2 miles. Not just my idea. I know that's been floated, and Sophia was talking about it from a perspective of international students not having, or anyone visiting not having the means to get there or a public transit option. I would be a fan. We talked about a dedicated route, a seasonal route, a weekend route, some type of option to certain wild spaces within the county would be a plus for all people.
All right. Now, Sophia, as a hiking instructor, How do you approach students who are new to hiking?
Yeah, well, people come from all over the place to go to college, and people come from all backgrounds of experience. Some people grew up in the West and like backpacked every day of their life. And then you've got some people who have never been camping before and are really excited for a new challenge. I think the best thing about bringing backpacking in the outdoors to more people is just making it as accessible as possible, because it is an activity that has kind of a high barrier of entry just because a lot of the gear costs a lot. And so having things such as like rental gear available for everyone, having really instruction, letting people know what they're getting into, letting people know kind of what is expected of them, letting them know about the trail, what elevation they're going to do, what mileage they're going to do, what conditions, what the temperature is going to be like, what they should wear, It's a lot of things that people who've been doing it for a long time take it for granted, and you don't realize that you don't know that. And it's really, I think the biggest approach is just they're just excited to be there. They don't have any previous knowledge necessarily. And you just want to share this thing that you love so much with them. You want to spread the joy and have them fall in love with the earth the same way that you did.
So what's the most important thing for folks what's the most important thing they should know if they want to get started?
I think if someone was getting started in hiking, I think you should do a bit of research yourself on what kind of trails you're looking for, what kind of grade, what class, how difficult, how far you want to go for it, because hiking brings so much joy to people, but in certain cases it can be kind of dangerous, especially if you're underprepared. There are things that you should definitely look at, like the weather. You should think about what layers you want to bring. You should think about what materials you want to bring. If you sweat a lot in cotton, that cotton doesn't dry off very easily, and it's not really the ideal material that you want to be wearing. You want to make sure you have enough food. You want to make sure you've got extra food, The biggest emphasis is just to be safe and let people know what you're doing, and talk to people who have done it before, and they can give you some guidance.
Now, you mentioned class for trails. Can you break that down a bit for us?
Right. So if you think about a lot of the classification for trails and how difficult they are, kind of the grade of how paved it is, how scrambly it is.
How steep it is.
How steep it is, exactly, thank you. There's a class system that goes from about 1 to 5, and you can see it used all over America. So 1 is generally more or less just kind of straight up walking on a flat surface, you think just about a pavement. And then class 2 starts to get maybe a bit steeper, a little bit more difficult. Class 3 counts as something if you would start to use your hands and start using scrambling, a lot of what you see in caving. Class 4, that's when you start wanting technical ropes. So if you think about summiting big mountains and things, when you want really good gear. And then 5 just goes straight to vertical climbing.
Wow.
Yeah, so you can learn a lot about it and see what you're ready for, and what you want to start with.
Oh, this is great. I learned a lot. That was Sophia Wang. She's a hiker and former outdoors experience instructor. She's joined by John Michael Cassidy, director of the Shelby Bottoms Nature Center. Thanks to you both for being here, and we'll see you all on the trail, all right?
Thank you so much.
I'll see you out there. Thank you.
We have to take a short break. When we come back, we'll head out to the trail and meet some avid local hikers. Are you a hiker? What's your favorite trail? Tweet us at This Is Nashville. We'll be right back.
Funding for This Is Nashville comes from you, our listeners, and Music City Prep Clinic, Nashville-based provider for PrEP and offering comprehensive sexual health services in an environment designed to be safe, professional, and shame-free. Learn more at musiccityprep.org.
I'm Khalil Ekolona, and this is Nashville. We've been talking this hour about hiking in Middle Tennessee. We just heard about some great places to hike in our area and some of the things we'll learn when we hit the trail. Now, I want to make sure that we know what to do when we get out there. What kind of gear do we really need? What are the potential dangers? How much water do you really need to bring? My next guests can help to answer those questions. Jess May Lancaster is an avid hiker and blogger who shares tips on her Instagram page at SheHikesTN. And Melanie Harsha is a super serious hiker who has thru-hiked the Appalachian Trail, y'all. Jess, Melanie, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to This Is Nashville.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. Yeah, excited to talk about hiking today.
It's going to be a lot of fun. This has been some fun so far. You know, I would love to hear from both of you about why you're such avid hikers. Jess, when did the hiking bug first bite you?
So growing up, I grew up in Northwest Indiana near Chicago. So we had the lake, we had things like that, but no mountains, obviously. So every spring break, we would travel down to the Smoky Mountains in East Tennessee, and it's kind of when I fell in love with hiking. You know, most of my family was a little bit of me, come on, let's go hiking. This is fun. This is great. And ever since then, I've just loved Tennessee, loved hiking, and ended up moving here in 2009. And once I moved here, I just associated Tennessee with hiking, and just continued in that love. And I've been seriously hiking in Tennessee for about a decade now. So
what was so amazing about that experience that you decided you wanted to keep doing it, specifically when you got here?
I think just the disconnectedness from everything. You only have what's in front of you, the trail, the view, your phone probably doesn't have service, and you can just feel connected to yourself and to the world in a different way, I guess. And just feeling free.
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
That's the mode that Sophia was just sharing. Melanie, tell me, how about you? Like, when did you find that hiking was the thing for you?
Yeah, so in the early 2000s, my mom started section hiking the Appalachian Trail, and when I kind of left what she calls my eye-rolling phase, and started actually getting interested in hiking, I started joining her for section hikes on the Appalachian Trail, and I went to school in Chattanooga, and then later on got my master's at Appalachian State in Boone, North Carolina. So started hiking more and joining her for those section hikes, and I realized that I'm not as patient as she is, so I decided to just do the whole thing in one go and kind of move away from those section hikes, and just realized this is what I want to do. So.
All right, so you did the Appalachian Trail from Georgia all the way to Maine in one go. That is amazing to me. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
What inspired you really to make that journey?
Well, I had just finished getting my master's at Appalachian State in Appalachian Studies, and I just realized that I wanted to hike through the region that I just got my master's in studying, and I just fell in love with it. And, hiking from Georgia to Maine was the best 6 months of my life, and got to Katahdin in Maine and realized I'm going to go do this again. And so then in 2018, I hiked the Pacific Crest Trail from Mexico to Canada.
You did that. How long did that take?
That one took a little less time, even though it's more mileage. It took about 5 months, 4 days.
Why the difference in time?
Well, I think, the Appalachian Trail was my first trail, so it was, slower in that way. I got injured on that trail. But the Appalachian Trail is a little bit harder. It has a lot more elevation gain. And I think once you have one through hike under your belt, you kind of are more mentally prepared and physically prepared. So that one took, a month shorter.
Now, give me an example of a typical day when you were hiking the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah, so you wake up pretty early in the morning, pack up your tent. I'm kind of a get up and go kind of person. Some people might have breakfast. I like to eat while I hike. And I hike like 10 miles before lunch, and then have lunch, and then hike 10 more miles, and you get to a campsite as a typical day. But honestly, there's no typical day on the AT. You get stopped by a beautiful view, or maybe you go into town and do a little less miles that day. So, but it's a lot of walking.
Did anyone go with you?
My dog, Boo Radley, joined me for the first 1,000 miles on the AT, and then the second half continued on solo without her.
You mentioned you studied the Appalachians, you hiked them. What is it about those mountains that draws you in?
The Appalachians are the oldest mountains in the world, and because of that, I think that they are filled with stories and culture that you just can't get anywhere else.
Now, you're crossing through so many states and areas. Did the trip change the further north you traveled?
Yeah, I think so. Starting in Georgia, was nervous and was so scared I was, not going to make it. The landscape changes, but you also get more comfortable. You get more confident in yourself. But then it's also a mental game. Once you're physically in shape, you have to wake up every morning and convince yourself, I got to walk every single day, even if it's snowing or raining or hot or my hip hurts or whatever it is. And so you have to convince yourself to do that.
Yeah, you got to push through.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not every hike is going to be a 6-month-long trek through the Appalachian Trail. Jess, what are some of the things that you look for when you're trying to find an ideal hiking spot?
For me, I love to have a little bit of diversity in the trail. Maybe you're walking along a stream, maybe you see a view or two, maybe you walk through some nice cedar groves. We have a lot of those in Middle Tennessee. A waterfall. It's nice when there's a little bit of differences in the trail. Keep you motivated to keep walking. But as Melanie kind of said, a lot of hiking is you're just walking in the woods, and you don't necessarily have to have those special features in order for the hike to be a hike. You can find nature and find beauty really anywhere. So, but it is nice to have a pretty waterfall or a sweeping view.
I bet.
Yeah.
You've been at this for a while. What's the longest or most extreme hike you've taken?
The most I've done at one time is about 40 miles. So just over a couple days, 3-4 days. One of my good friends finished the Appalachian Trail, but she hiked it southbound from Maine to Georgia. So she finished in Georgia. So I've hiked the last portion of the Appalachian Trail in Georgia. That was Georgia, even though the elevations aren't as high as some other places, it's still, you're up, down, up, down. It's a pretty challenging trail. And we did it in December as well. So it was cold. We had clothes freezing overnight in one of the shelters. So that was fun to put on frozen clothes the next morning.
Wow.
But it's type 2 fun. It's you look back on it and it's like, I wouldn't trade it for the world. So there's a couple other like shorter trails in the area as well. There's like the Art Loeb Trail. It's in North Carolina. It's about 30 miles. That's a great in-between trail if you're thinking like, I want to try something a little longer, a little more challenging.
What's one of your favorite local spots?
I live really close to Beeman Park, and so that is my my little respite within the city. So I am hiking there when it's not 100 degrees out. I'm hiking there frequently. Also, just east of here, there's the Cumberland Plateau and the South Cumberland State Park, Savage Gulf State Park.
So, just when you're advising somebody who's either new or doesn't have a lot of experience hiking, what's the first thing you're telling them?
You don't have to have anything special to hike. If you have shoes that you can walk around the neighborhood in, you have shoes that you can hike in, for the most part. You don't necessarily need a fancy backpack or a fancy water bottle. You can just put your shoes on, put on some comfortable clothes, grab some water, and get out on a trail and hike. There's no contract you have to sign to be a hiker. There's nothing super special about it in that it's a walking in the woods. And if you can walk in the woods, you can hike.
All right. Obviously, water is key.
Yes.
So, Melanie, how much water should people bring with them when they're hiking?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it depends on the time of year and each individual, but the average would be 1 liter an hour, just to be safe. Again, that depends if it's hot and if you're somebody who drinks a lot of water, but I always say 1 liter an hour.
1 liter an hour. Okay. Now, extra water is always a good thing, but what about knowing your way around? I don't think cell phones would be very helpful. Is that right?
There are apps out there that you can download maps to use, in airplane mode, and I definitely use those. There's a couple different apps out there. Far Out Guides, All Trails are very popular, but it is always good to have a paper map and know how to use that paper map is key.
All right, so knowing how to read and use a map, check. What about safety? What are you all worried about running into are you really worried about running into potentially dangerous wildlife? Jess?
I mean, it always runs through your head, right? You hear a rustle and you're like, it's a bear. I know it's a bear. But usually the rule of thumb is wildlife most of the time want to stay away from you. If you're walking, if you're making noise, they're going to stay out of your way. But it is really important to be aware of your surroundings, that if you do hear a rustle, or you do, keeping your eyes in front of you, eyes on the trail. We do have snakes in Middle Tennessee. So, just making sure that you're watching where you're stepping and you're not, this is the wildlife's home first. We get to also recreate in these areas, but to just be aware of your surroundings, both wildlife and people, making sure that you feel safe, that you feel you're just, even though you want to disconnect, you also need to be aware of what's going on because you are out in the wilderness sometimes. So.
Melanie, I see you kind of shaking your head. You're like hiking alone for 6 months. I can imagine safety was something you probably constantly thought about. How did you adjust your hike to ensure your own personal safety?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with everything that Jess said and would say those same things. And the most scary animal out there to me personally is other people. So I think just listening to that little voice inside of you, if it feels wrong, it's probably wrong. And so surrounding yourself with people that you trust, and if you feel uncomfortable, to exit that situation and bring whatever makes you feel safe. And for me, that's myself and listening to that. And, when you go on a 6-month through hike, it is important to make sure that you're listening to your surroundings, that you're prepared, that people know where you are. And also, whenever I go out for long periods of time, I bring a GPS location tracker with an SOS system in it. Garmin makes one. Spot also makes one. So make sure to always bring that with me. I definitely feel that, being a woman alone, that I probably have my guard up a little bit more.
Now, Jess, what are you mindful of when you're out there on the trail?
I think similar things, a general overall awareness and not just throwing yourself in without thinking about anything. Mm-hmm. Because if you have to rely on yourself a lot of these times because you might not have service to call somebody. Why it is nice to have a GPS device if that's something mm-hmm. that you can afford or that you need. But people do bring like mace on hikes and things like that. But I've always trusted my intuition as well. Just kind of what Melanie was saying, just being aware. And if it feels weird or something feels a little off, don't be afraid to just turn around and be like, you know what? I'm going to go back to my car because this doesn't feel like a great situation. I think just listening to yourself is the biggest thing.
Now, we've only have a couple minutes left, but I want to get this in. You both have documented your hikes on social media. And Jess, you have this blog called She Hikes TN. Tell me, what's the online hiking community like here?
It's funny. When I started this, 8-10 years ago, I didn't really think that I would find people. I didn't think about the community aspect of it. I was just like, oh, a couple of my friends are asking about what they should hike, and I can't remember what I've hiked. I'm just going to write it down. And especially over the past couple of years, just the Instagram community, it's wild. I've gone on hikes with people that I've met online, and I've had those experiences with people who. Again, using my intuition, okay, this person seems to be a good person and we can go on a hike together. But I've been able to build a community that I did not think would be possible. And I do hike alone a lot, but now I have so many more people in this area that I can go to. And it's great. It's just something I didn't expect and happy that it happened that way.
All right. Only a few seconds left real quick. What are some must-have items in your hiking backpacks? Melanie.
I never leave home without my pee rag.
What's that?
If I have to go to the restroom in the woods, I have a pee rag made by Kula Cloth, which is a woman-owned company. So I never leave home without that.
Jess, what about you?
Water, snacks. I also have a pee rag. It's great. And just an attitude to just be open to the experience.
Wonderful. That is master hiker Jess May Lancaster. She was joined by super hiker Melanie Harsha. I want to thank both of you for coming on to the show today, and thank you for giving us those tips. When we come back, we'll talk with a local chef who hit it big on the Food Network show Chopped. It's coming up in a second, so stay with us. This is Nashville. I'm Khalil Akolona, and this is Nashville. For fans of local cuisine and the Food Network, we have your Nexus moment. Local executive chef Star Maye was recently on the hit TV show Chopped. She took home the top prize of $10,000. So she stopped by Nashville Public Radio to tell us about her experience. Bon appetit.
Go Nashville! Oh no, I still take Charleston.
4 Southern chefs take their turn with the mystery baskets.
I'm a deep South girl. Southern cooking is the feel, the love, the passion.
Who will win $10,000?
We put together something that was beautiful.
And who will be chopped?
Chef Star Maye.
Right here with you.
Have you watched Chopped in the past and had dreams about being on there?
Yes, I always watched the show. I remember watching the very first episode ever, like the pilot show, and I was like, oh my God. One day I would love to do that.
So here you are.
Yeah, 54 seasons later.
54 seasons later.
I made it.
You made it. You're on Chopped.
Yeah.
What was your experience like?
It was like so surreal, really. You know, it's something that you've thought about. You've seen this show thousands of times. And you never really thought that you would be on it. And then to get the call and be like, you know, we want to fly you out to be on this show. And I'm like, oh my God, are you serious?
Your appetizer baskets are ready for you. Open them up.
Okay.
And bless your hearts, it's vegan fried chicken, corn on the cob, shrimp, and a pimento cheese tomato pie.
When you opened that basket, what went through your mind?
What am I supposed to do with this? Vegan fried chicken? I ain't even ever heard of that. And then I'm like, okay, so I don't know about pimento cheese pie, and I don't really know anything about vegan chicken. But those other two I feel confident with. So we're just going to have to see where it goes.
Chef Star, please tell us about your appetizer.
I got an encrusted shrimp with a corn and pepper succotash with a pimento tomato sauce.
Where are you from, Chef?
Nashville, Tennessee. Originally from a small town in Alabama, 683 people. So I'm just a little small town girl trying to make it in a big man's world.
And you really kept with that Southern theme. I mean, the episode was the mouth of the South. Yeah. And with the corn and peppers, you did like a succotash thing.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's something I eat often. I'm like, I made that for my son. Like, we eat this.
Yeah, so that was in the
It was
bag.
very comforting to be able to make those things. And I'm like, I definitely feel like I am the mouth of the South. I have a lot to say.
So when they looked at your plate and they tried it, describe your emotions then.
Well, when they said that the succotash, you know, was so good, I was just like, whew, that's great. And then they said it was a great idea for me to have turned the vegan chicken into the batter for my shrimp. I was like, yes, another 2 pointers. So I'm like, I'm really confident in that. They weren't really sold on the sauce for that plate, but I was like, I don't care. I got 2 out of 3 and that ain't bad. I put everything in it. I transformed it from what it once was to something new. So hopefully that gets me through.
And it got you through.
It did.
To round 2.
Round number 2.
Where in your basket were
deep fried deviled eggs, turnip greens, pork chops,
and get this, biscuits and gravy casserole.
Yep.
What?
Yuck. I was like, well, again, they've gotten me with 2 things I feel confident in. In the South, we definitely cook pork chops, and turnip greens is a real thing.
Yes.
So those 2 things I feel confident with. But I'm like, what am I going to do with deviled eggs? Deep fried deviled eggs at that. And this gravy thing.
Gravy thing? Yeah, the biscuits
That's how
and gravy
it kind of felt.
casserole.
Like it was eggs on the bottom, and then it was the biscuits, and then it was the gravy with cheese on top.
What was your approach?
So I just pan-seared those pork chops. Really got a good caramelization on some onions and garlic to go inside of my turnip greens, and then just cooked them. And it just took a lot of steam and work and effort and paying attention to them. And then I'm like, what am I going to do with this? So I went and grabbed a couple potatoes and made potato salad with the rest.
With no raisins.
No raisins.
Okay, so How did the judges? Well, the judges obviously passed you on to the next round, but again, you know, as they're looking and they're tasting, what did they really like about that dish?
These greens are exactly what I want in greens. I'm really surprised you did this in the amount of time you had.
Okay, so we got the appetizer, check. Entree, check. On to dessert.
Yeah.
How did you feel about going into the dessert round?
Dessert, I was afraid of dessert before I even got there because I can make desserts, but it's just not something I do often, and I'm not very versed in. Okay. What I do make, I make it, and it's phenomenal. But that has not been a concentration for me in my career.
Okay.
So I'm not very confident with desserts.
So before you even got there, you were nervous about it.
Already nervous about desserts.
It was probably on your mind, but definitely during and after round 2.
Oh, yeah.
It was really on your mind, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you open this basket and you see banana pudding cheesecake, sweet potatoes, dehydrated marshmallow bits. I can imagine those are like the kind you find in Lucky Charms cereal.
Yes, exactly.
And Tennessee strawberry cream liqueur.
Clock starts now. Dessert time.
I'm like, I just don't even know what you want me to do with this. Because none of this stuff look like it goes together. Bananas, cream, cheesecake, sweet potatoes, and marshmallow pieces. That don't go together.
No.
But I made it go together.
How did you make it go together?
I took those marshmallow pieces, so I turned it into dust and mixed it with graham crackers. Made like a crust, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I took the sweet potatoes and I cooked them like candy yams, like regular sweet potatoes with a little bit of cinnamon and brown sugar and vanilla. And I cooked them down pretty good, you know. I like to leave them kind of chunky, but then I also didn't know if I would be able to cook sweet potatoes from raw sweet potato to a done sweet potato in less than 30 minutes.
Yeah.
High. I had to just cook everything on high. And then I took the pie and I broke it down with I put the liqueur inside the potatoes and I put the liqueur inside of I took the pie and mixed it with peanut butter and I put a little bit of the strawberry cream in there.
Okay.
And then I was like, what else can I do? Oh, you know what? You need a little crunch. Candy pecans. I'll make candy pecans and put it on top so you have a little crunch, right?
Ooh.
And the lady was like, I could hear her saying, I'm very nervous about Star. She's got a lot of things going on, and I don't know if she has enough time. And I was like, I don't either, girl. I'm just going to do the best I can do. So that's kind of how I felt. And when they were counting down at the end, I'm like, oh, my Lord, are the pecans crunchy enough or whatever. But then I left it all out there on the table, so whatever is whatever.
All right, Chef Star, what do we have?
It is peanut butter, banana cream, sweet potato, topped with candied pecans and a graham cracker crust. Make sure you get all the way to the bottom, all right?
Did you think about any family members as you were cooking these meals?
Oh, for sure. Like most people who know me understand that my family is a big inspiration for what I do. My grandmother and my mother. And it just so happened the day I was filming the show, it was like the 1-year anniversary of my grandmother's passing, the exact day. And I'm like, I'm already so emotional, I just can't think about it. And that's how I was getting myself. But at the end, once I made it through the second round, I'm like, well, girl, if you're going to be here, then let's work it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Let's get the job done. So I really felt like, you know, I could feel them pushing me in the background, like, yeah, girl, you got this. Mm-hmm. And I did need that push, and it was great.
Okay, so what went through your mind the moment you won?
Well, it took like a minute for it to register that it was me that won. It was like, this dish has been chopped. And I was like waiting for him to lift it. And then I looked in there and I was like, oh, that's not my dish. And then I was like, oh, that means I won.
Chef Star Maye. Guess who the Chop champion is? That would be you. That would be you. Congratulations.
Come on, Nashville. Yay, Nashville. Man, it feels amazing.
You won $10,000.
I did.
Did you walk away with anything else?
Yeah, bragging rights. That's the best.
Bragging rights really do rule.
They really
I
do.
mean, they can last forever.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it last forever. I'm thinking about getting some new artwork on my body that says "Chop Champion."
Hey, you better. That's right. They let them know.
Yeah.
So, what'd you do with your winnings?
Well, I took a portion of my winnings and donated it to two local nonprofits. One called Cafe Momentum, and they work with justice involved youth and giving them a different platform as far as education goes and enrichment in life. And they teach them culinary skills. They get Serve Safe certification, and they get out in the workforce and learn a great skill. And then Elevated Development, which is a financial literacy program for youth as well. So both of those touch really close to me because I wish I would have had them growing up.
Chef Star Maye.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being with us.
All right, you got it.
Congratulations again to Chef Star Maye. You can see Chef Star's win on the Food Network. We want to thank everyone who tuned in this hour. This is Nashville is a production of Nashville Public Radio. Today's show was produced by Rose Gilbert and Char Daston. Our technical director is Laura Boach. The masterminds behind our theme music are LaRange and Namir Blade. Special thanks to our former intern, Tori Hoover and Julie Height. Listen back at thisisnashville.org or wherever you get your podcasts. The conversation doesn't end here. You can tweet us at This Is Nashville, find us on Instagram, and tell us what you want from our show by filling out our quick survey online. This is Nashville. I'm Khalil Lake Alona. We'll see you on Monday, everybody, and be good to each other.